In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today, we're going to dig into content marketing, repurposing, some secret tools that we professional marketers keep to ourselves. And I'm going to have a conversation with Mike Montague, who is a lifelong advocate for fun and creativity. He blends humor, insight, and science to help others rediscover the power of play. Mike is also the co-author of LinkedIn, The Sandler Way. He's a recognized thought leader in human-first AI marketing at Avenue 9, the award-winning marketing agency that he founded. And Mike, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for spending some time with me today.
We did it, and we're actually trading podcasts. So you're going to spend time on the Human First AI Marketing Podcast on Friday. I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, well, it's good. We'll have at least a two-parter, and who knows, maybe more.
That's right. Yeah, I think for sure, and it's definitely something that's going to take more than 25 minutes to talk about. But that's why you get to do this every week, right?
Yeah, it is a treat. Actually, I'm coming up with my 100th episode, and I'm going to be doing a recap of the way that the podcast has changed me, my perspective on marketing, and why I believe that everybody should host a podcast. So,
do you want to give us a little teaser? You're going to be my fifth guest on my show.
Awesome!
So after 100. Do you have more or less faith in humanity and AI, or which one?
You know, it's interesting. I think I have faith in humanity. Period. So that's kind of my maybe I'm naive. I don't know. We have lots of tools right in our life that could go either direction, for the good or for the bad. Obviously, AI is kind of maybe a hyper powered tool. And I think you and I agree that as long as we remember we're talking to other humans, then it's a good use of the tool. And so, I'm always hopeful that we're going to be getting rid of more drudgery and freeing ourselves to be more creative. And I know that resonates with you.
Yeah, I hope so. Me too. I wrote a book called Playful Humans, which is about how humans can kind of embrace their humanity with creativity and confidence and connections with other human beings. And then how do you build your physical and mental conditioning over time through play and creativity? And so I think that's where I've landed too, is that, like you said, we've had, when we invented the telephone, we got telemarketers and we got people spamming us over email, and we got social media, and then we got advertising and fake influencers and stuff. So I think all of that will come along with it too. But I have a greater faith this time that good marketers like you and I have figured out that we can just skip the spam part.
Right.
we just because we can cheat with AI doesn't mean we should. And that this tool, I think, is almost so powerful that it kind of feels like the nuclear weapon to me, that even the people that have it go, this isn't something we want to use all the time and for bad purposes. Like this one is so powerful that I think maybe an email spam felt like, it might be cheating, but what's the harm in it?
Right.
I think I have faith that this time marketers can go, you know what, we can see the harm in it right away, and maybe we just skip that spam part. But we'll see how it goes.
I mean, at this point, I've kind of drawn the line at making my my replicated avatar, the video avatar. Like, I just can't quite get myself to go through that process. That feels a little too phony.
Yeah, I had a major company offer to digitize me, to scan in my face and replicate my voice, and there's enough podcast. My previous one had, oh gosh, I forget how many episodes now, but over 9 years, and I think like over 750
Yeah.
episodes. And
Yep.
so like you could clone me if you wanted to, for sure. But I at the very last minute, I was like, I'm not signing away the rights to my face and my voice. It sounds horrible to do in the first place. And then also, we're still in this weird uncanny valley that even if you can replicate yourself, like it still feels wrong
Yeah.
in so many ways that, again, I'm with you. I'm hoping everybody just skips it and says like, well, if you know what, the tool I love is the one that makes you speak foreign languages.
Oh yeah.
It'll change your voice and make you
Right.
speak Spanish and stuff. And I
Yeah.
could see where that could be a helpful tool rather than having, English subtitles on the bottom of my videos. I could actually create a Spanish version
Right.
for my clients that speak Spanish or something. And I could find that version of AI, replication valuable, but just having it make stuff that I never said and never did or never would say doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah. So I mean, let's dig into that. I mean, I love the angle that you've taken with Avenue 9 and explain to me a little bit about the philosophy and your value proposition.
Yeah, I call it human first AI marketing, and that can mean a lot of things. For me, I think it means let's use the tools in the way that is best for humans, and like we've been talking about. I think second, it means that we need to put kind of the human first and last in this process of marketing.
Yep.
So if you and I have this great podcast interview, and then we use AI to transcribe that, change it into other languages, create a blog post, social media content, email blasts, or turn this into a little mini white paper, great. We used AI to expand our powers, and then at the end, we need humans to review all of that. Take out
Yep.
the word delve. I don't know why AI
Or
loves delve
journey. I don't want
so
a
much.
journey.
In today's ever-changing world, delete. And take a good sales and marketing expertise look at the end of it. I think you have much better results than if you do AI first and then have a human try and edit, or if you just do a human first and then don't look at it at the end. I think when you put human first in the process, you just tend to get much better results. And then finally, I think there's this cool analogy that I heard about, and I don't know who said it first, so I can't credit them, but it's the Terminator versus Iron Man analogy. Have you heard this one yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so Terminator is a autonomous robot, right, with
Yep.
artificial intelligence that's pretending to be human. You send him out on a mission, and no matter what happens to him, he tries to accomplish the mission. Iron Man is Tony Stark, a human that's
Right.
at the center of this thing, and he wraps himself in technology, and he has the Jarvis AI talking to him that he can talk to, give commands to, that can give him data and information maybe he wouldn't have as a human, and it gives him superpowers
Yep.
rather than becoming something else. And I think that's the way that I like to think about Avenue 9 and this human first marketing is, how do we empower the human with superpowers versus trying to automate or replicate the human in a robot form?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I agree 100%. Human has got to be in the loop. We have to produce the outcome. I mean, we have to identify the outcomes that we want and then stay in there and continue to imbue whatever content it is with our creativity. That's our job. And I think there's a fantasy that is still perpetrated where it's like our job is just to go sit on a beach and drink pina coladas, right? Like, I'm so rich. I have so many things that are working on my behalf. I don't have to do anything, which is a really immature way to view being alive, right? It's not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someday it could be within our lifetimes in the next 20, 30 years. If what Elon's trying to do to colonize Mars and stuff, if you could, have everything that you needed to support human life and in food production, shelter, and everything that we need, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does then give us a nice philosophical question about what's humans' role in that world. Yeah. And I think in that world, it's to play, it's to create art, it's self-expression and connection with other humans. And I think it gives us a nice insight into what our role should be now as we start to use AI in marketing or sales or other, business pursuits. Is the part that we shouldn't automate is the part that requires empathy and caring or some sort of artistic expression or creation from scratch. And the decisions to be made about what we build and why we build it and who we build it for. I think those are all powerful, questions that we need to ask ourselves as humans, not ask ChatGPT to answer this question.
That's right. I like that. Well, as you're doing deployments for clients, what are some of the things that you're seeing helps to make that successful from the client side?
Have you seen the HubSpot Content Hub and the Remix tool yet?
Yeah.
So that's one of the coolest things that I was basically going to do with Avenue 9. And then the week I announced Avenue 9 is the week they announced the Content Hub, which was great. I was at Inbound and stuff. So I'm a partner. I'm not knocking the tool at all. But the idea is you create some sort of source material, and then you can remix that into all the other pieces. And so if I do an awesome podcast or I interview a company's founder, their top salesperson, their best client, then I can use AI to process that recording through the transcriptions or even the video and create the best 1 minute short that was set out of that video and post it on social media. Or I can take the top lesson learned from our clients and create a nice case study about that. But in order to do all of that, there's kind of three things that I think is interesting for marketers and business owners. One, you have to have a great source interview. You have to have somebody that can ask the right questions, that can listen, that can say, tell me more about that. That's the interesting part, and get that nugget into the recording on the first place. A second, you need kind of sales and marketing expertise to know what to pick in those remixes and how to tie them together to a nice marketing plan.
Right.
So AI is not quite there yet. I don't know if you have any tools there. It will make a decent marketing plan, but I wouldn't give it an A+. I would in most cases give it a C or a B- grade. And then what you can do is say, okay, based on who our target audience is, based on what we're trying to say, who this is for, this would be better as a case study. This would be better as a video. This would reach more people if we created a short, text message to send out to our clients or an email reminder as a show up sequence to this event because we're a membership organization, something like that. You still need to put in that creativity and expertise. And then I think at the end, as we've mentioned, like the editing and the nuance that AI misses is context. So it doesn't really know about you and your business. So you have to build that over time. But that's another thing we can talk about is custom wikis for clients, and custom built GPTs are really fun for me. And then once it does know about you and your business and your value proposition, it can do much better work for you.
Yeah. So how are you structuring that? Are you doing it inside of a tool? Like I use Avia and I use Perplexity, and then we build these long conversations with basically seeding the LLM in order to continue to give us better work. But how are you structuring that?
I'd love to hear more about those two. And if you've played with ChatGPT's custom GPTs or Google's Notebook LM or the
Notebook is cool. Yeah, I like the Notebook.
So Notebook is cool because you get 50 sources. So I could take 50 podcast interviews or 50 client interviews or 50 sales calls or 50 white papers we've done in the past, load them all up. And then you can just query that database and say, hey, out of all of our last 50 sales calls, what are the number one questions that prospects are asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's probably something we should know, right? But
yeah. And how are the sales reps answering it, right? How are they answering it? And how's it all different?
Yeah. There's some really cool sales tools. I work with one of them as my client, coach them, where they analyze all the gong call recordings from salespeople and
Right.
talk about who's doing it well, who's doing it's not, pull out best practices, give learning interventions and stuff to salespeople and say, hey, you need to work about how to ask to get introduced to higher level decision makers. Like,
Right.
here's a tip on that. And they're doing really cool stuff. But for marketers, I think the notebook is great. And then the custom GPTs and ChatGPT, I love creating these for my clients because you can upload documents. So you can say,
Right.
hey, here's our brand guidelines. Here are our best sales pitches, or our here's our pitch deck and stuff that we present, and kind of load that up with information. But you can also give it some prompts and guidelines around your tone of voice. Here's what I don't want. Don't use the word delve. Don't use in a world. Don't use passive voices or guesses. Like, I want you to use a lot of scientific research.
Yep.
And our brand is, really credible. And so we want to, do it this way. And we want to speak with facts, or our brand is really fun and playful. And we want to use analogies and metaphors and creative. And if you can, work in a pun or a dad joke, do that. And you can set these up. And then when you start saying like, create a blog post for this company, it will already have it in that voice and everything. So those are the two that I love. How is that different from what you can do on Perplexity and the other?
Well, so Avia, what I like about it is it's an SSL and it's encrypted. And so there's a kind of as much security as you can have for your IP, right? I mean, it's still not secure, but it's encrypted at least. The next level is air gapping, and that's a much more expensive process.
That's too much.
Perplexity, what I like about that is it brings in the citations, and so you can see actually where it's coming and drawing its data, and you can upload and interact at a deeper level, so that there's tone of voice and brand docs that go on there too. But those are the two that I've kind of settled on. I haven't from Avia. You can pull Claude or ChatGPT, or you can designate which LLM you want. So I don't.
Yeah, that's cool.
I use that interface instead. Yeah,
I like that a lot. ChatGPT on the Pro version lets you kind of keep your data outside of the learning models and stuff if you want, which is nice. Yeah. And then the reason I like both of them is I can upload these documents and transcripts. So really what I focus on, and it's been my job my whole career, is as a content creator, is normally I'm like a ghostwriter. So I have to go interview somebody. I have to learn from my client what they do, what they're trying to accomplish, where they're going, who they're talking to. And then I can use ChatGPT as sort of a middle step to process all of that stuff that I'm learning and give me some guidelines. And then I can add to it and say, yeah, but I want it to be shorter, or it needs to have a couple of extra steps, or it needs to speak to this target audience more. I like that. Really create some cool stuff from those core knowledge bases.
Yeah, and revising for different ICPs. I think that's the other thing I really like about it, right? Because that can be such a grueling task, is to build that source material for the various ideal client profiles.
That's one thing I would love to highlight here on this podcast, because I don't think people realize how quick and easy that is now. Yeah. That they're missing opportunities. I'm working with my new clients over the last couple of months, and I'm telling them, I've been on sales calls for myself where they go, yeah, how would you do this for the professional services industry? And I go, you know what? I have a blog on that. After we're done, I'll look it up and I'll send it over to you. Yeah. I can make that blog in 2 minutes, post it, and then send them the link. And it looks like, oh, I've had expertise on this forever. And you can decide, ethically how much you want to disclose and stuff, but you go, oh, I have some thoughts on that. And let me put my thoughts together and I'll send it over to you. And all you have to do is say, hey, ChatGPT, take this blog post I've written for a different industry and write it for professional services, and crank it out, review it, post it, and send it over. And you can create custom sales pitches that way, presentation decks. I love Gamma. Have you played with Gamma?
No, I don't know that one.
It's a presentation creator where you can give it your outline for the presentation and upload like a Word document of what you're trying to create, or even your PowerPoint and stuff, or it will help you fill it out. And so you can say, nice. create a sales pitch from my company to a professional services firm and include like these 8 to 10 slides or whatever. I think you can do, 25 or more if you
So you can
want.
prompt it. You can prompt it into doing
Yeah,
something specific.
and it'll prompt you with the outline, and then it'll give you stuff, and then it'll fill it all in, and you can make this huge custom presentation in just a few minutes. I mean, really, I've thought about doing this in a live stage show. Is be like, "Oh, Emmanuel, sorry, I was running late at the airport. They lost my bags, and I lost the flash drive that had my presentation. Let me open it up again and just make my presentation
Right.
live on stage."
Yeah.
For people, and I think that would be super cool. But it's darn near that accurate that you could do it within a couple of minutes live for somebody and then give the presentation in 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that is cool about Perplexity is that you're able to take these things, you do your research, build whatever blog or white paper content, and then you can turn it into an article with a URL. And so you can then email that URL to somebody. I've been playing with that with some clients when they send over certain issues, and I'll just take 10 minutes, build out one of these things, send it over, and it is pretty awesome.
I have a question for you. Have you found yourself intentionally slowing any of that down? Because I'm torn between I could do it on the call for them, like I mentioned, and just be like,
Right.
"Oh yeah, let me get my thoughts together," and then like by the end of the call, be like, "Share my screen, and here's what I came up with." And I don't know if that's impressive or insulting that you can find the answer before the end of the call. Sometimes I find myself going, "You know what? Let me put some thought and deep research into this, and I'll play with my tools, and I'll get something back to you." And it almost feels like you should wait 24 hours before sending that over.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think part of it is because I think people get this idea that, oh, if you can do that on AI, then I don't need you, right? Like we're replaceable, even though, you've got over 20 years, I got over 20 years of doing this. You're not going to write a prompt. You're not going to interpret what comes out. You have no capacity to do that.
And why didn't you do that instead of calling me in the first place?
Exactly. So it is kind of an interesting push-pull on that. It's I don't mind doing it instantly. I think velocity matters, and
I think so too.
So that's kind of where I landed. People,
I haven't slowed down, but I have had that thought of like people looking at it like, well, how much am I paying you to do that in 5 minutes?
Exactly. Yeah. So the adoption rate of AI is not as great as what everybody thinks. So it's about a third of executives are actually using this in their daily activities. So give me a couple of things that you would recommend for people if they've been kind of on the fence and not ready to dive in. What are you telling people?
Yeah, I usually have 3 things. Number 1 is the stuff you don't want to do. So look at what you always wish you had a personal assistant to do or things you hate doing and find a tool that does that for you.
Yeah.
I know with me and the podcast that I had, I was always looking to outsource like the editing, or I needed somebody to go find highlight clips. And I just sat through the interview for 30 minutes. I don't want to watch it for another 30 minutes again and find the 1 minute snippet. And then once I find the 1 minute, it turns out it's 1:05. And now I got to spend another 30 minutes editing the clip. And so all the post-production stuff was not fun for me. I love the live interviews.
So what are you using?
Post-production was boring. There's a ton. Video is the one that I use for the highlight clips.
Oh yeah.
Descript is another good one, but Podium I love for writing the descriptions. That was another one where it's like it would take me hours to write the title, the description, tag keywords, find chapter markings for when we ask what questions. I mean, that's a brutal job. So outsource the stuff you don't want to do. 2, I found like low risk testing is fun of just like brainstorming ideas. And you're like, you know what? I need a team name for my fantasy football team, or I need 10 ideas for another blog post, or how would you rewrite this email, or whenever you're getting, for me, I write a lot of content. So especially for other marketers out there listening is, when you get that negative feedback and you're like, well, that was my best swing. I spent hours on that. Like now you want me to do it again. I just don't have the energy. Like try it, outsource it, go play with something. Say, upload it to ChatGPT and say, make this better, make it shorter, make it longer, rewrite it for a different tone of voice or a different industry, and see what happens. Get the help when you get stuck and stuff there, I think is low risk. And then third, I always encourage people to make sure that they don't automate their magic. Like if it is something you love doing, or if it's something that's critical to your business, don't just be like, oh, well, let's throw that over to AI. I think what you want to do is low risk testing, things that are annoying, things that maybe have a low impact as far as costing you money, but has a big upside if you do it right.
Yeah.
So one of the things is a lot of data for me. I'm not a spreadsheet guy. I think humans are bad with probability. So if you ever have 1,000 calls, or you have even 1,000 emails in your inbox, if you're an executive CEO and you're like, I don't have time to even read these, set up an AI bot to read them all, give you the highlights, and pull out anything they think is important, or it can even respond to them and stuff now. But you're going to want to test that a little bit, but save yourself time. I think that's the best way to get started. And then that'll be fun, and you'll move momentum, and you'll get that. Most entrepreneurs, right? If you're a business owner or a CEO or even a marketer, we're creative people. So then once you start playing with it, you go, ooh, you know what we could use this for? We could do this really cool thing.
I like it. That's a good list of 3 starting places. So I like that. Well, Mike, I'm appreciative you spent some time today with me, and I'm looking forward to being on your show. If people want to get in touch with you and at Avenue 9, what's the process?
I made it super easy. It took me a long time and a lot of ChatGPT searches to find Avenue 9, so I could just get avenue9.com and Avenue 9 AI on all the social media channels. But check out, you're listening to a podcast, you made it all the way to the end. Check out Human First AI Marketing is the new podcast, and Emmanuel's episode will be coming out here in the next month or so, and it'll be great.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And thank you very much. I'm appreciative of your time today.
Yeah. Thanks for the time.
All right. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn.